Step 1, wake up, really gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know what, when I'm thrift shopping, I run into these little shift dresses all the time. They are everywhere in thrift stores. Like this one, same thing, just a little shift dress, sleeveless. They are a little bit plain and boring maybe, but since they're so easy to find, I thought it would be really fun to try to do a quick, fun upcycle with them. So the one I'm wearing doesn't fit me. I don't even have it zipped up. It fits me barely from the waist down. And so I'm going to try to turn it into a cute little mini skirt. So I looked for some inspiration and I really like these little mini skirts with the cargo pockets, especially the ones with the cargo pockets that hang down a little bit lower than the hemline. I just think that's really cute. And I think it would make a plain gray skirt a lot more fun. So that's what I'm going to try and do today. So the first thing I have to do is mark up this dress where I want that waist to hit. With my little scrap of soap, I'm just going to mark right where my waist is. I only have to do half. I'm going to just put some pins at the bottom edge just so I know it's nice and even. This is the center front over here and the zipper over here. And I want that zipper open because if I have it closed when I cut, I'm going to have to get that slider back on, which is possible. It's just a pain. So now I just want to double check my lengths. It makes sense to me that it would dip down at the back waist. It's coming up at the side, which also kind of makes sense, but I will just add seam allowance to see here. Okay. Well, there you go. There's a skirt. So I'm pinning that together just before I pick it up, just so it stays with the lining intact and that I don't have to fiddle around with it later. So now my bottom pins can come out and I can start figuring out how big I want that pocket piece to be. I've got a piece of graph paper here and I don't have a ton of room to cut that pocket out of. The only place with no seam is that center front panel, and so of course I'd only get one pocket. I was thinking that I would try to do a box pleat in the middle of the pocket. That could be good. So with my paper here, I'll start off by making that box pleat. The box pleat requires a lot of width. So I might even, I could do it out of 3 strips. Okay, that'll be good. Okay, I like that. So there's the box pleat in the middle. If I want this hanging down a little bit, that'll be good. And then I want a flap. Okay, a flap like that I think is cute. All right, well, I have a plan. So this piece will be folded and then seam allowance around. That's pretty easy. This one, because I've got such limited fabric to work with, this one I'll be cutting in 3 separate strips. The only other thing I need to consider is how am I going to finish the back of this pocket to be hanging down? And I think for that, I just need to make the pattern piece extra deep. So from my fold, it has to come back up to the hem plus seam allowance. So I've got a little bit of a fold on here, but it really needs to be almost 2 inches. Yeah, I'm going to call that 2 inches. So from this point, it has to go down 2 inches. That should be pretty good. Just to make it easier, I'm just going to cut right through that shoulder seam. So this is all I have left to make the 2 pockets and 2 flaps. So I started folding them to make them smaller so that they actually fit with what I have to work with. So I am going to do a bit of taking apart. I didn't think there was going to be very much seam ripping today. I thought I was just going to be cutting this up, but I literally need like every 1/4 inch I can find. So this is a chain stitch and then a 3-thread serge. So with chain stitches, it's all about finding the right end to pull from. There we go. And then the serging, this is only a 3-thread. There's not another line of stitching down the middle of the serging. So that's also fairly easy. Although this is that woolly nylon thread, which I just cannot stand. But anyway, if I can find the stitch that's holding down the loops, not the loop itself, but the stitch that's holding down the loops, and if I can pull that, yes, then the rest of the serging just falls off. But that woolly nylon thread is just murder. It just breaks and it doesn't give me a good pull. So it's either struggle with this or just get the pocket to be smaller than I wanted it to be. And I think it might be worth at least trying to struggle with this. Okay, not too bad. Okay, so I've got everything more or less taken apart. This is the center front panel, and that's my biggest piece. I've pressed it in half to be nice and even, and that is as big as it's gonna get. So this is 1/2 of both pockets. These are the back panels of the dress, and they are going to make the other half of the pockets. So that is the main parts of the pocket. This is my next biggest panel from the dress. So this is the box pleat. Okay, that is everything. Basically, each pocket is made up of 3 pieces, and then there's the flap. Okay, I don't think this fabric has a right and a wrong side, so I'm just putting a small one to a big one, and I'm just going to sew at the edge of my presser foot. And open that up and put the other big one. So I'll make 2 of those, 1 for each pocket. And to the iron. I obviously have some trimming up to do, but let's go iron first. So I'm going to just press these seams toward the pleat. And then I'm going to take them and press them again with that seam right out at the edge. And now I want to bring those 2 seams together, make my pin go in on that side of the stitching and come out, yes, right beside. So I'm kind of nailing together the seam. I guess I have to figure out how far to sew up and down both sides. Remember, there's going to be seam allowance coming off the top and the bottom. I think I'll leave a 4-inch opening, so that's 1.5 inches from the bottom. I'm just designating this to be the bottom of the pocket. Leave a 4-inch opening for the box pleat to poke through, and then 2 inches about at the top. Okay, and now it's sewing right beside that seam. I need just a little notch at the center of the pleat, and then I can put that notch right to the seam, just like that. Both my little pocket pieces are prepared, and they ended up being just shy of 7 inches wide. And now I need 4 strips of lining to be able to finish off those inside edges. And I put a little nick there accidentally, and that is just shy of 7 inches. This is the lining of the front panel, so I'm just going to cut straight up here. Get rid of the nicked part. I can use the lines on my cutting mat to make sure I'm heading straight-ish. Ideally, I'll get 2 pieces that are 1.5 inches and then 2 pieces that are 3 inches, so 9 inches. And that's just about what I have. So this is my 7x9 rectangle, 1.5 strip, and 2 that are just shy of 3 inches, because that's what I've got. So now this is the plan. Both my pockets right side up. So then across the top of the pockets, I'm going to sew the skinnier strip, and at the bottom, I'm sewing the bigger strip, because remember, I'm trying to make these so that they hang below the hem of the skirt. So I need something to back onto that. And then this one is just so I don't lose very much at the top and I don't have to serge. So again, I'm just sewing at the edge of my presser foot. I want that pleat to stay nice and flat as I go over it here. And the wider strips on the bottom, same thing. So this top one, I want to turn and bring it to the inside. So I definitely want a little understitch here. That's going to make that turn a lot more crisp and easy. So all understitching means is that I'm sewing the lining to the 2 layers of seam allowance. So seam allowance is coming out to my right, the lining covers it, open it out nice and flat, and then sew 1 millimeter or 2 onto that lining side. This one on the bottom, it's going to just be making that underside look better. You know, it's just a way to finish off the bottom edge of the pocket and still have something halfway decent looking on the inside. So I think I will understitch anyway, just to keep it flattened out. Okay, beautiful. And now back at the iron, just press that all flat. And then I'm going to just fold in the top edge of that lining. And I'll fold about the same amount on the bottom edge of this lining, of the bigger piece. So this is the wrong side of the pocket and the lining is folded in at both ends. No, I'm going to fold that whole lining piece down. I don't want the fold here. I want it here. Just like that. No biggie. And then at the bottom here, it seems to want to fold right there, finger width up from the edge. That'll be fine. I don't want to press these inside out, right? I'll have an inside out crease on my pocket if I do that. So I don't want to press these folds now, not until I flip it back to being right side out, and then I'll press. Okay. Looking good. I know it seems a bit funny now, but you'll see in a minute. I think that's all going to come together nicely. Basically, I'm making a false hem at the top edge with the lining. It's just a nice way to finish off that top edge without having to serge or do a double fold of this thick area here. I don't want to have to do that double fold. And then here, same thing. It's just naturally folding right there, a finger width from the edge. And I think that's also just because it's thick here where that pleat is. So I'm quite confident that the two are the same, but I will give it a little check after I pin this. Okay, a little hem on all 4 corners. So I'm just sewing the vertical here, not going across. That's going to come later. Okay, back to the iron. So now I can do that little flip to the inside, poke out my corners nice and pointy. These scissors don't have a super sharp tip, so I can use those to poke out that corner a little bit more if I need to. So now I just want to press everything flat. I might have liked it if that pocket could have been a bit wider, but I used every millimeter of fabric that I could. Not bad, not bad. I want to be nice and straight as I go across this, so I'm pulling it a little bit taut, and then I'm finding a good guideline here. That's pretty good on the inside and good on the outside. Same guideline. Okay, so the pockets are prepared. I'm just going to prepare the flap now. So while I was at the iron, I did interface half of each flap piece. So those both have some interfacing just to keep that flap looking crisp. It's always nice if the flap is just a tiny bit bigger than the pocket instead of being a tiny bit smaller. So I sewed the pocket sides at 15 line or 5/8 line. And so I'll sew these more or less at the edge of my presser foot, a little bit less seam allowance. And then back to the iron. I had to trim the pocket flap down to be just a smidge bigger than the pocket. That's quite cute, right? I'm going to do a little edge stitch around the flap and put a buttonhole. The edge stitch makes it nice and flat. And now before I can put a buttonhole, I have to find 2 good buttons. Okay, those will do. So one of them goes in the back of the buttonhole foot like that. And then the presser foot goes on with the button in the back. There's a little lever that comes down and has to sit back there. I'll just fold in half to find the center. I like to bring the edge of the piece right to that silver line, like at the needle plate there. And that little pick of the pin goes right in the little window. I'm on a plain buttonhole. And then just snip my way across that buttonhole. Just wiggle the point of the scissor in. I don't push. That'll do just fine. So before I start putting on the pockets, I just want to secure the top edge of the skirt together. I'm going to just run a little stitch around the top edge of the skirt just to keep that nicely together so I don't mess anything up while I put the pockets on. You know what? I think it would not be a bad idea for me to take that stitch right over the zipper, just so I don't accidentally pull that slider right off. I didn't do that at the beginning, but I think I should. Okay, time to put the pockets on. So here's my zipper. That's the back. This is the front, and this is the side seam. And I played around with the pockets, and they look better if they are brought to the front by about 1 inch. Probably because my pocket is a little bit skinny. If you're able to make a wider pocket, I think that looks better. So I want it 1 inch toward the front. And I want the pocket 1 inch below the skirt hem. So I've got a cutting board in between the layers of my skirt so that I can just pin to the one layer, and I've got the lining up out of the way here. So I have to be kind of precise just so I get the 2 pockets the same. So here I am 1 inch toward the front, and then I can lay this down to make sure I am 1 inch below. And I'm going to pin there, but I'm not going to be sewing there. You'll see in a second. Up here again, 1 inch to the front of the side seam, and I'll pin there too. But where I'm actually going to be sewing is down, across, and up. So I want these edges to look nice and straight. And I know that as soon as I pick this pocket up, it's going to shift and move. So I will put in an extra pin on both sides. I'll be starting up here, so I've got my pins pointing towards where I'm going to start, and I'm going to sew down across the bottom of the pocket and back up there. So now I want to sew nice and close to the edge of the pocket. If your machine is mechanical instead of computerized, you can have your pin sideways and you can go slowly and go right over the pin. But on a computerized machine, that needle is going to go down where the computer says to go down, and I will break needles. So I don't ever sew over pins on this machine. So straight past the hem of the skirt. Pivot at the bottom of the pocket, and then up the other side of the pocket. So that looks kind of cool. I think that's nice. I like that. Alrighty, now inside this pocket, like on the back, it's nicely finished. Like the part that's hanging down is nicely finished, but it is open here. And this skirt is washable. Like I could throw this in the washing machine or hand wash. And so I want to make sure there's nothing that's going to start unraveling. At the end, I'll do a little whip stitch just to hold that down to the lining, just to close that up. But I'll sew both pockets like that. So the flaps are ready, but they're really fraying. So I'm going to put a line of zigzag. I could serge this, but I don't want to have to thread my serger with gray. So I'm just going to run a line of zigzag right along the edge there. And then I can trim off some of that fray. So that looks pretty cool. I like how that pocket hangs down. It just looks more interesting and edgy. I like it. So now if one side looks better than the other, which I think this side looks better, that's going to be the right side then. So now I'm going to flip it up and sew straight across here. So I'm going to sew edge of my presser foot here. The edge of my presser foot's going to run right beside that zigzag line. So I'm back onto a straight stitch. Okay, I'm going to come off the edge, leave my needle down, turn back the other way, flip the flap down, and come back. And here, I'm just going to have the right hand toe of my presser foot run right along the top edge of the flap and just guide that edge of the toe right along the top of the flap. Nice and straight across the top like that, and sew both sides the same. Under here, if I have any threads sticking out, I can just trim those, no problem at all. So all this needs is its button sewn on, and it needs a little bit of a whip stitch along here. I'm going to do the handwork at the end. So right now, let's just do the waistband. I'm pretty happy with that pocket though. It's pretty cute. Here's a nice easy way to finish off this waistband. I've got a piece of grosgrain. The grosgrain ribbon is the one that has those lines across it. It's super stable. There's no stretch. It doesn't warp. It's really stable. Now, I wish it was this color. That would be better. But this is what I have. So that is what I'm going to use. So now at the machine, I'm just going to leave a little extension hanging over. I've got my line of sewing and I'm just going to put that grosgrain just past, like just over that. Now it's not going to end up showing. I'm going to be turning it to the inside. So don't worry too much about the color, but yeah, it would be nicer if it was gray, but that's okay. So let's go to the machine with that. Okay, so I'm not even pinning, I'm just arranging it as I go. And this extension, I'll be trimming some off, like it can just be extra long now, that is okay. And I'm just placing this to just cover that line of stitching I did. And I want to be sewing nice and close to the edge of the grosgrain. If I'm not really close to the edge of the grosgrain, when it folds down, you will see an edge. So that's looking fine like that. And right off the end like that. That is good. So this is going to fold down like that. You'll never see the grosgrain. I'm going to just cut about 5/8 of an inch, 1.5 centimeters away from the edge, and then wrap that in and then fold this down. So this is wrapped around and folding down. And then now I'm going to sew on that edge. So you will see the line of stitching there. So you want your bobbin to be a good match as well. But that line of stitching doesn't look bad at all. It kind of looks like a little like built-in waistband. Probably a good idea to try it on at this point. Make sure you're happy with the fit of the waist. And then I'll be sewing along that lower edge. That'll be good. So now I'll be sewing right along that bottom edge. And here I don't want to sew over the zipper because I want the zipper to be able to go right up to the top. So I'll just start right there, that little bit inside the zipper. And same thing, I'll just do my little back tack before I get to that zipper. So there we go. So that's the outside. I'm going to give it a little press. That is just going to end up looking like it was meant to be. So the zipper still zips right up to the top. So that's a nice, easy way to turn a dress into a skirt. Alrighty, I just did a quick little whip stitch, just connecting the inside of the pocket to the bottom edge of the skirt. So that was quite simple and straightforward. Looks good on the outside. And then let me show you my quick, easy way of sewing on the buttons. I've got my quadruple thread here, like 2 threads through my needle and tied in a knot. And I'll just drag my needle through that buttonhole to see right where that button wants to sit. Little stitch, the button's going to hide the knot. And because I've got 4 threads on my needle, I only have to go through that shank about 3 times. and tie my knot. So a button like that on each side, and then we are done. Cute. Okay, so that's done. And I really like it with the sweater from last week's video. What do you think? I think the skirt is way cuter than it was as a dress. Am I right? Like, it's an improvement. And I think it'll be fun to throw big sweaters over it all winter long. So this one works with it, but I also like my favorite thrifted black sweater over it as well. And of course, they go so nicely with my favorite Vivaia boots. The Regina Pro with that cool red heel. I think that that's such a good look. And this skirt is a perfect way to show off those Vivaia shoes. Remember, you can use my code and the link that's in the description. When you upcycle your clothes, right, you want a sustainable shoe to go with it. So these shoes are sustainable. They're made out of recycled water bottles, which is fantastic. They're water repellent and they're so cool. So I ended up wearing that outfit, including the boots, to work. I spent the whole day in my classroom and then went out for dinner with my husband. And after dinner, we walked the dog. I was wearing those boots for almost 12 hours and my feet were still so comfortable. So use my code, use the link in the description, and get your Vivaia shoes. And also keep upcycling. It's so much fun and it gives you such a unique wardrobe. So until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.